thing that does stand out is it was a baby brand at that time, but we had not imagined that this will be a company that will transform the beauty and personal care for overall population of India.
Honasa Consumer, the parent company of Mamaearth and the Derma Co, has entered the Unicorn Club.
CNBC TV 18 India Business Leader Awards proudly presents the Young Turk Startup of the Year Award to Mamaearth.
Please welcome on stage the co-founder of Mamaearth, Rahul Chowdhri.
So to start with, let me take you back to 2018 when you first invested behind Mamaearth. D2C back then, I think, as a concept was premature at best. In fact, I read through our investment memo of Mamaearth and I found a total of 0 mentions of the term D2C. Today, they are the first D2C brand in the country to hit the public markets. I'm very keen to learn, what was your thesis that you underwrote to take such a forward-looking bet?
When we invested, there were 3 broad reasons as far as market is concerned. It was very clear that India's population was growing, disposable income is growing, people want brands that they like or that they identify with, but not enough were available in the market. So the lack of brands was true across sectors. But what was changing in 16 and 17 essentially were the emergence of online platforms, and that allowed 3 things to happen. One is that brands were able to launch products, get reviews, quick feedback, and then figure out what is working, what is not working. Almost similar to, let's say a consumer app, which launches a version. If it works, they figure out what works, what did not work, and change the app. The second is these platforms allow distribution to happen, which in traditional world required you to tie up with distributors, put your inventory out. So a lot of capex and uncertainty on what is working and what is selling and not selling. With online platform, through few warehouses, you could reach pan-India. And third is rise of digital marketing and influencer marketing. Again, in traditional world, you have to spend money on TV, so like few 100 crores or few 50 crores or 60 crores would go in, and then you'll realize whether it is working or not. Out here, with every 200 rupees, 500 rupees of digital marketing, you know whether the customer is coming or not. How big it would be, but we were not very clear, but we knew that this is a new way to build a brand. And finally, we looked at multiple categories and found that beauty and personal care had few characteristics. One is it was a large category and growing category. At the same time, it had high gross margins, and third, it had high repeat.
despite all of this, I've heard a rumor that it was a fair bit of a war internally to convince our investment committee to make the investment. And we all know most of the successful outcomes have seen divided ICs. So I want you to tell us what were the key concerns of the team internally.
So you rightly pointed out, at least I would say in my career, best decisions are non-consensus based decisions. Be it investing in big basket, people were asking who will buy grocery online. Live space, people were asking why do you need an organized home design player. ID fresh and so on. And so was the case with Mamaearth. There are two big pieces where we disagreed. One was how large can the brand become online? And clearly I had no clue. So I was asked this question and my best case estimate was we'll reach 50 crore. And they were at about 70 lakhs a month. So I just pulled out a number out of the hat saying it will be 50 crores and then they'll go offline. I think they hit 500 crores online and then they went offline. So I was off by 10x there itself. The other big question was, in most of the consumer businesses or consumer tech companies, we like to see focus amongst founders. When they start doing 3 businesses, you start having doubts on whether they even know what they're building. In case of Mamaearth, this equivalent thing was number of products they had. So they had no hero SKU. They had I think about 50 SKUs that were selling almost an equal number. At least in my mind, that was again an emergence of a concept which is again very well known today, is called platform brands. So be it Himalaya, Patanjali and similarly Mamaearth, these brands span across multiple subcategories and build a large business versus again in traditional world there are 1 or 2 hero SKUs which lead to the popularity of the brand itself.
But you truly showed us how to fully back your conviction and put your money where your mouth is. Moving on, I think you've already addressed the market question of the investment. But for us early stage investors, it's largely the team that we are backing when we make the investment. So founders' visions evolve, so do business models. But by and large, we are backing the team's passion, their skills. What were those key spikes in Varun and Ghazal that stood out for you back then?
And that is true across, and these guys just stood out. There are 2 things that I try to look for. One is how quickly do founders learn? So learning agility as we call it. And second is their ability to be great leaders. I had seen, when I interacted with Varun, Ghazal, obviously their backgrounds allowed them. Varun came from building a consumer brand in past with multiple companies. So their background was clearly, the understanding of brand was there. But they had never done online before. But what Varun and Ghazal, they had taken online courses to understand digital marketing, websites and so on. So there was this willingness to learn and evolve. And also Varun's thought around how to build a team. And you'd see it today, like in public, you see it on LinkedIn and social media, how they do these Friday evening dance events within the office. But even in early days, I remember, Varun and I used to share a lot of book recommendations on what he's reading, what I'm reading. And his idea was that every book that he reads, he will then ask people within the firm, within Mamaearth, to also have a read, and there would be a discussion around that book itself. So nothing to do with business, but it was all about building a bond within the team. So these are 2 things that really stood out in case of both Varun and Ghazal.
And these are probably some of the must-have traits for consumer founders. But I believe that the true touchstone of a founder's ability to build a large business remains resilience, especially when tough times strike. So what were some of the hardest challenges that Varun and Ghazal faced as they scaled Mamaearth?
By end of 2019, company had raised their Series B also. We had come in at Series A, then they raised Series B. Business was going very well, beyond again our expectation. And early 2020, and Varun has this ability to build, desire to build annual plans. So we had all geared up, hiring, investment in marketing to grow even further from there. And then COVID happened. And, that is when it was seriously unclear to everybody, including us, on what will life look like if country is under a lockdown. So that, I think, was the biggest challenge that the company faced.
Interesting. And how did they tackle it?
So 2 phases. One is to get business up and running. And again, I recall Varun calling on phone, getting warehouses up and running, getting permission to sell stuff. That took a lot of effort. And even during height of COVID in May and June, he was sitting around getting permissions from relevant local authorities to get the vans out for shipping and all. So that was a clear case of resilience. Once the business was running back, we saw a lot of growth. But it was unclear what next 6 months will look like or next 12 months will look like. So there was a challenge of whether we should conserve cash or we should invest more in growth. And again, founders took a great call to say that this is the best time to actually invest behind the brand. While a lot of other companies were unsure about whether or not to invest in marketing, these guys were able to onboard new customers, get trials going, build a brand that I think today also, there are a lot of benefits that of the work that they did during COVID that helps them today also.
Interesting. That's some real display of grit, I must say. And the growth mindset, I believe, is indeed what has gotten them to the scale they are at. But to combine it with profitability mindset, I think is a rare feat. Were there any early signs that you could read on that these founders truly had that mindset?
So lots of examples. I think at a financial level, the company never allowed the business to go beyond or go below as far as certain percentage of CM2, which is post-marketing and all. So they were always in double digit and high double digits. In early days, I do remember that whole notion of scrappiness that shows founders' capital efficiency, cash consciousness. The office that they have, and I think they had that office for about first 2 years of their existence. This was a basement in Gurgaon in Sector 44, 4,000 square feet. It had a lab to test the product. It had seating space for office. It had a conference room. It had bathrooms, and it had place to sit and eat. Even to take a mobile call, you had to go upstairs on the ground floor to take a mobile call. And they were perfectly okay building a business in that way. While they had money, they could have easily rented a more, larger place, sonky place somewhere in Gurgaon.
I think Varun and Ghazal truly imbibe the bottom line focused DNA in every decision they make. And those were the things that you could read very early on. But there are always certain aspects where founders surprise us. So were there any instances that you can remember of where they pushed our horizon of our view of their business?
No, definitely. And again, you talked about the investment memo. If you look at our public blog we wrote in 2018 on why we invested, there are a lot of these pieces that I just talked about which are there, but you will find very few mentions of them becoming a beauty and personal care brand. It was a baby brand at that time. They had a portfolio about 25% which was non-baby, which was for more adult category. But we had not imagined that this will be a company that will transform the beauty and personal care for overall population of India. So it was a totally out of our imagination kind of an outcome. And clearly in terms of numbers, from 70 lakhs a month to I think last quarter they delivered over 450 crores of revenue and profitable in just 5 years. I think they're a big outlier in India.
Surely they are. And also, Rahul, I'm very curious, during this multi-year journey sprinkled with board meetings, were there also things that you learned as an investor from the founders?
And lots of things to learn from both of them. But I think one thing that does stand out is, I earlier talked about Varun's capability to plan for future. So he had this innate ability that in February he'll send out a note which contained his view on how market will evolve over the next 12 months. And then what does it mean for the business? And he had this concept, he still has this called 4+1, which is 4 normal goals and 1 stretch goal for the year. And these were all backed up by data and projections by their internal team. And then they will get revised every quarter because life doesn't stay constant in a startup, right? I do feel that founders who try to marry planning with on-ground insights, they just improve their chance of success, and that is what this company did. So these 5 years have been an incredible journey for us as an early stage investor in Mamaearth.